Every year, I always get quite excited to check out new mobile gimbals coming to the market. They're definitely useful tools for mobile filmmakers and online content creators. Now, we've used them in the past to cover particular events or product launches, and last year we had the Smooth Q3 on the bench and we did actually like it very much. Sure, we did have a couple of gripes with it, but who makes the perfect product, right? A year later, and today we've got the Smooth Q4 on the desk. Now, has Zhiyun addressed the gripes we found last year? Of course, there will be a card in the corner to our older review if you wanted to check that out first. So with all that said and done, let's dive into the Zhiyun Smooth Q4 review. What changes have been made and are they welcome additions? So the biggest change and most notable between last year's Smooth Q3 and the Smooth Q4 of 2022 is in the handle itself. It's a lot longer and has a decent amount of grip thanks to the wide surface area of the actual grip pad. Though strangely, the Smooth Q4 almost feels like it's been built for left-handed use, as the grip does actually wrap around the left-hand side of the handle, and I can really hug the hand if I'm using it with my left hand. I can hug the handle like this. Now, suppose though, this could be advantageous for me anyway, as I am right-handed, and it leaves my dominant hand free to change important phone camera settings on the fly. Now, button placement is pretty much identical to last year's model, which is good for me as I didn't have a problem with this. On the sides, you can find a power button, a USB Type-C input for charging, which there is a fantastic battery life, and a scroll wheel, which used to be a slider on last year's model and can be used for zooming your camera. Around the front, you've got a mode button, a start-stop recording button, and finally an analog stick to move the gimbal head. There's still a trigger button around back, which will lock the gimbal head when held down. 2 taps will center the gimbal, and 3 taps will switch between vertical and horizontal filming. If you press it once though, it activates Smart Follow 3.0, which is a super useful feature if you're going to be vlogging or even filming a subject that's moving, like in sports for example. Now, when extended, the Smooth Q4 has a height of around 31 centimeters, and there is now though, which is a surprise, an extendable arm which adds an extra 22 centimeters of reach, giving you an opportunity to get more creative with overhead shots or even shots closer to the ground without the need to awkwardly crouch down. There is now a quick folding design to store the gimbal away, which is certainly a welcome change from last year's sliding design. It's not as small when broken down as the Q3, but you can build it a lot faster to get into the action a lot quicker, so swings and roundabouts here. What also can be removed is the bottom tripod legs to get a smaller form factor for the gimbal, and the whole thing when folded down though without the tripod legs has a size of around 19 centimeters in height and 7 centimeters in width, so not really too bad at all, and could easily fit inside a larger coat pocket. Now, at the bottom you can also find holes for the wrist strap, though it was such a struggle to actually attach the wrist strap, which is included, that I just gave up in the end and went without. Even using a small pin, I couldn't manage to feed the rope through the given holes. There's been an interesting change to the actual gimbal head as well, and that's the 2 folding flaps that make up the phone clamp. These fold in again to give it less real estate when folded, and the clamp extends a maximum of 8 centimeters, which is perfectly fine for a good number of phones, if not pretty much all phones available on the market, and offers a decent amount of clamping force, so you're able to whip around the gimbal without the fear of your phone falling out. Now, a new addition to the Smooth Q4 is the addition of a magnetic fill light that attaches to the top of the clamp. No longer is this stuck in place like it was on older models, but can now be removed. So to give you a rough idea on what I'm talking about with the colored filters, you've got these 4 here, a blue, 2 different types of oranges for your warmer tones, and then a very, very warm red filter on there as well. If you short press on the scroll wheel or the zoom wheel, then you've got several different lighting power that you can select. So that's your weakest all the way through to your strongest. So what I will do is I will leave this as strong as possible, just so you get a rough idea on the most extreme kind of colors that you can create with the filters. So first up, we're going to be testing red. So that magnetizes directly onto the light itself, and this is how red it actually goes. That is the brightest blue that you're going to get. But if you do drop that down, you can produce a very, very moody look to your actual footage. Now, I actually quite like that as a look for a video, but you can start getting quite stylized with the videos. So the next ones are these orange filters. Now, the lightest one, I think, produces the most natural kind of warm tone, especially if the brightness is a little bit lower right now, because it is just so bright and the actual phone is sitting maybe just under an arm's length away from me. I can knock that down. Maybe that's even a little bit too high as well, looking at my phone screen. So you leave it on its lowest setting and it just gives you a kind of a nice front-on fill, but it does of course produce harsher shadows. And finally, it's the much more orange one. I think the gimbal has just been disconnected from my phone for some reason. I don't know why it's done that. And for some reason, the gimbal has decided to disconnect from my phone yet again, which is why you can see me holding it. But this is the orange that you are going to be getting with the deepest orange. Everything, as usual, does run through the Zhiyun Cammy app, which is available on both Android and iOS app stores. I've used the Android version personally. It is the partner app which opens up a bunch of features that work in conjunction with the Smooth Q4 gimbal. Now, first time installers will see users accepting privacy policies and terms and conditions and all that, but once you're on the actual home screen itself, you're greeted with a number of other tutorials and examples of what other people have shot to give you some kind of inspiration. The middle plus button will take you to a menu to allow you to access your creator tools, which consist of Create and Quick Edit, of which Create is for longer format video and Quick Edit is for your TikTok and Instagram Reels, that kind of thing. You've got templates to choose from, which can include transitions and overlays, and finally upload, where you can add image and video content stored on your phone to the Cammy app to make videos. Clicking the camera button on the top left of the homepage took me to the actual camera built into the app, but before reaching that I needed to turn on my phone's Bluetooth to connect to the actual gimbal. I found the device started straight away and did work really well. What didn't though is when I was offered a firmware update and my gimbal was under 50% battery. It wouldn't let me update the firmware, and it also wouldn't let me update the firmware when I had the gimbal plugged into a charger. I had to physically wait to charge the device and then try again. The gimbal also never accepted update version 1.8 for me, whether that's because of my phone or my experience, I'm not too sure. But the app did keep prompting me every time I clicked the shoot button to update. So eventually I just ignored the update, I clicked the ignore update button and proceeded with testing camera functionality. The camera app allows filming at up to 4K resolution at either 24 or 30 FPS. Now, if you do drop this down to 1080p, you get access to up to 60 FPS, and dropping it down to 720p, you again can film at up to 60 frames per second. You've got some video modes you can flick between as well, including panoramic mode, a dolly zoom for that cinematic background movement effect, time-lapse, and finally a hyperlapse, which is essentially a faster time-lapse. You've also got smart mode, which helps you create templated videos, which will look quite effective for social media use, and an AI live mode, which is for essentially live streaming, which you can choose a few services and even use an RMTP key for YouTube and Twitch. And you've also got gesture control to remote activate filming. Diving into the gimbal settings, you've got the chance to change your shooting settings, like adding a Bluetooth microphone, white balance, and if you want a grid like for your rule of thirds. There are also options to change your scene mode for running and walking, which strengthens the arm to actually reduce any kind of noticeable jolts to the frame, and also your joystick speed as well for panning. The gimbal itself comes with its usual pan follow, lock follow, POV and vortex modes, and for the most part I did stick to pan follow, but it is nice to know that there are some cool features there for those budding filmmakers out there. The Zhiyun Smooth Q4 is a decent piece of kit that Zhiyun have really taken feedback from and even inspiration from the wider mobile gimbal market. Now I'm looking at you, DJI. It is very, very similar to a certain DJI gimbal. The Smooth Q4 is also a cost-effective way of bringing some quality to your mobile shoots, and if you're someone who likes to film a lot of footage when out and about, or choose to use your phone while covering events or the like, then definitely check out the Smooth Q4. It is a wicked gimbal. Thank you very much for checking out our video review of the Zhiyun Smooth Q4 mobile gimbal. If you did enjoy this video, please hit that like button, subscribe to keep up with our latest tech and gaming videos, and let us know in the comments what you thought about the Smooth Q4. Is it something you would go for, or would you go for something from DJI, for example? As I said, thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.